Today we're looking at the differences between a true riving knife versus a splitter on your table saw. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each and when you might choose these for work at the table saw, as well as an alternative safety feature if you don't have these accessories for your saw. So a riving knife or a splitter, of course, is used on your table saw to reduce the chance of kickback, but both of these devices actually improve cut quality as well. There's less chance of swirl marks or burning on rip cuts if you tend to use a riving knife or a splitter. But in particular, what makes a true riving knife stand out is that it raises and lowers with the blade. That's particularly handy because that riving knife will never be in the way. It opens up opportunities for not just through cuts, but you can make grooving type cuts at the table saw as well. So I would say a true riving knife definitely has the advantage. Another thing it'll do is it'll move left and right as you tilt the arbor of your saw. So basically you can almost always keep that riving knife in place and it won't interfere with the cut. Now a riving knife is meant to be used with a single kerf blade, so if you ever have a dado stack on your table saw, remember to remove that riving knife. Regardless of the width of the stack, you won't use a riving knife with a dado. Be aware that there are full kerf and thin kerf varieties of these riving knives, and you want to match that with the thickness of the blade that you're using. So if you have a thin kerf blade, which is typically 3/32 of an inch, pair that with a thin kerf riving knife. If you have a full kerf blade, you'll most likely want to use a full kerf riving knife. One thing you never want to do is install a full kerf riving knife with a thin kerf blade. Of course, the thin kerf won't cut a wide enough slot to accommodate the full kerf riving knife. As you pass your board across the saw, it'll likely bind things up. On the other hand, if you're using a thin kerf riving knife with a full kerf blade, you can often get away with that. As long as the blade creates a kerf wide enough to accommodate the riving knife, you should be in good shape. So if a true riving knife is better than a splitter, why then would you choose a splitter for your table saw? I think the answer there is clear. If your saw didn't come equipped with a true riving knife, a splitter will give you some of the same safety advantages and improved cut quality that a riving knife will, and it's pretty cheap and easy to add to your saw. There are some good aftermarket splitter accessories available, like these from Micro Jig. You can drill out your throat plate to accept either plastic or metal variety of this type of splitter. Or for specialty blades like Infinity's laser thin kerf blade, they have a laser thin kerf splitter that you can install on a standard throat plate, and that works pretty well to align specifically with this thin blade. The kerf on that is just a 1/16 of an inch. That's one situation I might choose to use a splitter, even though this table saw will accept a true riving knife. So even a splitter in the right setup can give you nice clean cuts without any burning. The disadvantage of a splitter is that it's fixed to the throat plate of the saw, and because of that it won't raise or lower as you adjust the blade height. Also, it won't tip left or right with arbor adjustments. So basically when you're using a splitter, it's going to be limited to through cuts with the blade at 90 degrees. So what if your table saw doesn't have a true riving knife and you don't have access to a good splitter? What other options do you have to improve cut quality and safety at the table saw? And I think these feather boards are a great way to go, particularly these magnetic versions. Just twist the knob and it sets everything in place and you're ready to start the cut. Now the one disadvantage I see with feather boards is they're really only good for S4S boards. If you have a board with a bark or a waney edge on one side, you may set the feather board correctly to start the cut, but by the time you finish that cut, you'll no longer have support from the feather board. Probably a good reason to keep looking for a saw with a true riving knife, or at least get set up with a splitter as well. I'd like to leave you today by sharing a couple of comments from viewers. CFlux29 writes, "Who is this Yahoo?" Max writes, I wish your camera was more over so I could see you operating the controls and not a bunch of the table. Thanks, Max. All right, guys, hopefully a little discussion on riving knives or splitters will get you thinking about safety and cut quality at your table saw. If you've found one or two Thoughtful Woodworker videos that you liked, consider subscribing to the channel. If nothing else, hit the bell notification button so you can get the alert when I post a new video. Also, I really enjoy when people take the time to drop me a comment. I do read and reply to all my comments. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.